Hello and welcome to Gaia's Library. I'm your host, Francesca Catlow, and today we are discussing December's book, Christmas by Candlelight by Karen Swan, which is jam-packed with so many amazing things, super well written. Sunday Times bestseller, of course. Let's speak to her. Hi, Karen, how are you?
Hi, Francesca. It's lovely to see you. Thank you for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. We're really excited to have you on the podcast. So Christmas by Candlelight, what a fabulous book. And it's so full of different ideas, but you handle them all so beautifully. I mean, it's romance, it's suspense, it's coming of age, you've got the dual timeline, and yet it just feels perfectly balanced. So my first question is, what idea came first for you when writing this book? What was the thing that triggered all of the other things in the book?
Well, this book actually came from a place of absolute burnout and darkness and sheer panic. I'm
Okay.
sorry to say. I was, because I do two books a year, I have a fast turnaround time. And it was coming into Christmas, and I did not have my book idea for the next book that I was due to hand in February, middle of Feb. And I was really, really panicking. And I was getting to a point where I was thinking I was actually going to have to ring my editor and say, I don't have an idea. I don't have anything. I'm going to have to not have a Christmas book next year. And then we had a power cut. And I live in a house that has very high ceilings, like 13, 14-foot ceilings. And when we have a power cut, it's a bit of a disaster because if you light a candle, all it does is do a soft glow sort of around your person, but that's it. The rest of the room, and certainly the house, is in complete darkness. Also, because I live in the middle of a field in the forest, I am in the absolute sticks. So there's nothing around at all. We have the best night skies ever, but we have no light. So it's dark as dark can be. And we had a power cut, and it lasted, I think, for several days. Like, we just had no power, we had no heating, we had no light, we had no water. And it lasted for about 4 days. I remember sitting in the pitch black by candlelight thinking, gosh, this just doesn't feel like a power cut if we were in London, where it would be inconvenient, but you've got, I don't know, you're not too far from light anywhere. This really felt very unforgiving and quite brooding. It could be, I realized how scary it could be quite easily.
Yeah.
So that was sort of the trigger for, the original idea of the book. I didn't expect the book to become as dark in sort of plot as it became. I really genuinely didn't. I went into it thinking uni mates, reunion, coming back from a wedding, like really a really nice life stage
Yeah.
where life is sort of very glamorous and glossy, and you've sort of got your independence, and you're going to these amazing events, and you're sort of really putting your adult life together.
Mm.
And then I loved the idea of just slightly tinkling back to their recent past where certain things were unresolved, but not terribly. They're building their careers, they're winning at life, but there's just a few sort of cracks in the surface.
Yeah.
And just the idea of putting them together at this particular point in their life and really then pressing down on those stress fractures,
Yes.
and using sort of the elements in this amazing house in the middle of nowhere as a setting, to enable all that to happen. And as it got darker, I was thinking, goodness, this is a Christmas book. What am I doing? But it was, it was where the story was taking me. And it is always this mad thing when you write a book that at a certain point, the characters sort of have control of what's
Yes.
happening, which I know sounds a bit woo-woo, but
No, no, I get this. This is totally my vibe. Yes, I
do you know what I mean?
yeah,
Yeah, you sort of
100%.
give them their head, and
Yeah.
once they get to a point where they're three-dimensional and living and breathing, they're like other people. Like, they're gonna do what they do,
Yeah.
and you can't control. All you are is an observer.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, well, this is where we're at with it.
That's where
But
we're
it was
going.
it was interesting to me. But I liked it because I liked that, we had all this gloss and this glamour at the beginning, and then it became something grittier
Very
and
much so.
more real. Do you know what I mean? So it was quite eye-opening for me.
I love that so much. I mean, I didn't go to university in the conventional sense myself because I wanted to be a performer, but which doesn't really entail going to uni. I did go to open university later in life, so like I did some of that and then realized I liked writing books. But I used to go visit friends at university, and you wrote the whole university life so beautifully. I was like, yeah, this feels like when I was visiting I felt like I was visiting my friends at
Yes.
university. You did such a brilliant job of like taking us back to uni. Or so one of the reader questions I've got written down is are the statistics true about Durham University?
They were. I wonder whether they are now. So certainly when I was at university 150 years ago, I went to Exeter and it
Okay.
was very social and great fun. And obviously I drew a huge amount on my years there. But I had gone to a dinner around about the time I was writing this. I had gone to a dinner, and everyone was very successful, very high achieving, brilliant careers, and every single pair, every couple at the table were Durham, apart from me and my husband.
Oh,
I
wow.
didn't meet him at uni, but I met his sister at uni at Exeter, and then I met him through her. So I sort of have that uni link with
Yeah.
meeting my husband. But at this dinner, it was entirely Durham couples. And I had heard about this, the 70% rule or whatever. And yeah, I mean, Durham particularly is a very small uni,
Yeah.
and it's quite cliquey. So it's not very diverse in terms of its intake. So you get a lot of, and I don't necessarily think this is a good thing, by the way. It takes a lot of its intake or its pupils or students from a certain batch of schools. So they all know each other before. So it's quite a sort of tribal gathering. Do you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
so I think that might be why, because it's quite a small group that they're gathering there. And I think it's a continuation of these students' school years and their sort of already existing social groups.
Yeah.
So I think Durham is particular in that way, and because it's got the small colleges, which sort of are extensions of boarding houses at boarding schools. So I think it's all that with Durham. Whereas if you go to somewhere like Edinburgh or Exeter, even, but bigger unis, I think it's just much more open, and it's not quite so cliquey. So that was actually why I chose Durham, because it does have this real intensity.
Yeah.
And you do get these sort of slightly more extreme characters like the Archie Templetons of this world, you
Yeah.
know?
Yes. It's funny because within your answer, you answered my next two questions.
Oh, I'm so sorry
Because
I did that.
one of the readers asked, did you meet your husband at like did you go to Durham University and did you meet him there? So you didn't go to Durham, but you
I
did meet your husband at university. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I went to Exeter, and I didn't meet my husband there, but his sister was there, and I met her, and we became friends, and then I met my husband through her. So
really lovely. And it's nice that actually being friends with the sister and then you've got the whole family, like that's really nice. So you've kind of already met family members and you know
it
each
was so
other.
lovely. And do you know the really spooky thing? On graduation night, I was having dinner with my parents, and there was like this very smart hotel in Exeter. It's not there anymore, but it was called St. Olave's, and it was sort of like, the smart place to go. Like if your parents were down, that was the
Yeah.
place to go. And so a load of students were having dinner at St. Olave's on graduation night. And I was having dinner with my parents and my boyfriend at the time and his parents. I'd been going out with him for like 3 years. I was convinced I was going to marry him.
Yeah.
And at the next table was this friend of mine, but her brother was not there, so I didn't know her brother at this point. And she was having dinner with her parents and a load of other friends at the next table. And there I was thinking I was having dinner with my future parents-in-law, but unbeknownst to me, my future parents-in-law were at the next
Oh,
table.
wow. I
Isn't
love
that weird?
it. It's really
Like,
weird. I
if
love
I
it.
put that in a book, people would go, no, that's not believable. That would never happen.
Yeah, but that is life. It is like more extreme than fiction, half
It
of the
really is.
time. The things that you put in books that are based on personal experience are the things that people go, no. And I'm like, no, that
I
happened.
know. And I am so always ultra aware every time I write. I'm like, it cannot be too much of a coincidence. Like you can't
Yeah.
have things being too convenient. And I get really annoyed if I read it in other books. I'm like, this is too convenient. This is just you're cheating as the writer. You're cheating if you're doing that. Like you have
Mm.
to set up the character's world in such a way that things are organic and you're not having to reach for these unbelievable connections. But occasionally in life they do happen, you know?
Happen. Yeah, it is one of those things. But yeah, as a writer, you don't want people to question the likelihood, even if it happened in real life and you've had that experience. So I've got another reader question here. It was, did you find it difficult to include such disturbing themes in what is actually a warm-hearted Christmas book? Like, did you find it difficult when you, because obviously earlier you were saying you didn't know it was going to go that way. It just kind
Yeah.
of happened in a very organic and natural way with the characters and their situations. But did you get to it and question it? Did you find it difficult when you were, I mean, we're trying to be a little bit spoiler free, so anyone who might want to read this book gets enough that they're interested in reading it. But
Yes.
so without going into too much detail of what actually happens, did you find that difficult? Did you think about cutting certain elements out, or did you think that it has to stay, or
It was yes, it was difficult, and I did have a long think about it before I tried to actually think of other things,
yeah,
and really it was the only thing that was feasible in that scenario.
yeah,
And but I'm so aware of, whenever you're writing anything traumatic,
mm,
you just think, my God, what if, this is real for someone
yeah,
who's
all
reading
the
this.
trigger warnings and
Completely, yeah. And I do take that really seriously because it makes you feel quite ill, the thought of your words doing that to someone,
yeah,
and you can't be gratuitous about it, and you can't be like, woman to woman, you have to look after each other,
yeah,
and you just can't go into this sort of thing lightly.
yeah.
You also can't ignore it, like, because
I agree very much.
we have to talk about real life and all the good things and the bad things. But I think if you can do it in a way where you can show empathy
Mm,
and you can get justice and you can have support, like you can bring in positives in the fictional world as much as possible, then that's something. But
yeah,
it is, and when I was writing, we don't see anything. We just hear sort of secondhand. But I
yeah,
had to be very careful. It had to be real. It had to be raw.
yeah.
But so we had to feel pain. But I didn't want to go too far with it. So yeah, it's really hard, and I hate that sort of thing. Yeah.
Well, I think it was important. And it's funny because in the chat group, because we have a chat group with Gaia's library and the readers talking about the book. So we had a little bit, not exactly a divide. So I had one reader say they were completely hooked on the book. They loved the book, but they
Yeah.
found certain storylines, with Coco, her storyline.
Yeah.
Um, they found it like unnecessary for them, but
Yeah.
equally they completely loved the book. They were super hooked. And then a lot of other readers came in and said, actually, what they loved about it was how it brought everyone together.
Yeah.
So that storyline brought all the characters, like glued everyone together in this certain way. So like it was really important for the progression of the book and the narrative. And like everything unfolds from dramatic happenings, sort of in the middle. And but that storyline was hard to read, but it
Yeah.
was something about the way, yeah, there's something really, as you were saying then, like the light that comes from the dark,
Yes.
really important. And
Yes.
Did you have editors? That's one of my questions. Did you have editors push back on this because it's a Christmas book, like having a few, like there was a couple of really hard-hitting themes in it, not just one,
Yeah.
there's like two really particularly. I mean, it's quite a lot. It's a lot of drama.
Yeah.
I loved it. I literally devoured this book. I loved it so much. I really do have to say that. But yeah, so did you have editors go, oh, push back, or did they go, do you know what, you've dealt with it well enough?
Yeah, no, they didn't, but they would if they felt it was gratuitous or sorry, I don't know if you can hear my dog whining outside the
No,
door.
I can't. It's okay.
My puppy. I don't have a small child trapped somewhere. It is my dog.
Okay, I'm
Um,
used to it. I have a puppy and
oh,
he's
you have one.
I have an old English sheepdog puppy. So, but he's downstairs with my husband. So sometimes I have to make sure like, when we're doing the podcast, I'm like, can we hear animals in
Yes,
the background? So don't worry,
exactly, because
the
it's so
listeners are used
alarming.
to it.
Yeah, yeah. No, the editors are really good at that. So if they feel it's too much or it's inappropriate, then they will absolutely, and my agent too, they will, they really sort of are they don't censor. Like they will just say what they think and they'll be like,
Love that.
no, I don't think this. I just think this is not what we need. I
How do you
think
take
what
that, by the way? Sorry, how do you take that? Because I take criticism really, really well. My editors are like
yeah.
always quite cool with that. I do because the way you're saying it, I feel like you're quite, if they push back, you're good with it.
Yes, I'm collaborative.
Yeah.
So I'm very if both of them are saying it, and because I'll hand in the first draft and then both of them read it and both of them feed back to me. If they're both saying the same thing, I'm like, okay, do you know what? They can't both be wrong. So it means either I haven't done what I was trying to do well enough, I haven't achieved it, so it hasn't landed. So in which case, if I really want it, I'll argue for it and I'll try and get them to see my point of view. But there are times when they're like, no. And I take
Yes.
that on the chin. And it's hard. There are times when I'm pretty sore and I'm like, oh. And it's not necessarily about something traumatic or dark. It might just be particularly where I went with a character.
Yeah.
Um, but, sort of the character's journey. But I'll always listen to them. And I do believe that it's collaborative. So I'll do that. I think for this book, the reason, what it really does show is, first of all, Coco on the surface is incredibly flighty. She's a party girl.
Yeah.
And I wanted her to sort of have more depth. Now, that doesn't mean that I wanted a terrible thing to happen to her so that she could have depth, but I sort of wanted to show that in a way, this persona she had was a bit of a trauma response. It was sort of a way to protect herself and keep people away.
Yeah.
Um, but it also, that group of friends were really protective of her. The
Mm.
boys, the girls,
Yeah.
they massively rallied around. And you do see that also with the other characters as well, with Archie. And, there's an element of self-sacrifice for him. Archie
Yeah, of
also
course.
steps in to protect
Mm.
Xana. So we have this element of this really tight friendship group and them stepping up for each other in different ways. And that's why sort of Libby's flight from the group is so hurtful because they were,
Yeah.
such a tight-knit group. But I totally understand why people might feel that for Coco, did it need to be them?
I think it did though. For me, it did. It
Well,
it was
it
something that is sort of can happen, and it's putting out that things happen even when you're all fun and happy and everyone seems happy. That doesn't mean only good things happen in life. And I think
yeah,
um although it was like, you've got like these
yeah,
moments where you're like,
yeah,
all the bad things that happen in the book felt like they round the characters because there is not one person I know who hasn't had a bad thing happen to them.
exactly.
It's
It's an abuse of power in that environment, and it's the thing that then carries through to the present day. So for the plot, I needed something that uh, could tie both timelines together,
Yeah. I mean,
and
how
it
did you
had to
feel
be
writing that
serious.
in like a real university? Were you a bit like, ugh, like, because there was things like putting bad things happening in a real environment.
Yes.
Did you feel a bit nervous going like,
Oh yeah, I mean, you don't want to obviously defame anyone or so you've got to be careful.
This
But
is
I mean,
fiction.
yeah, exactly. And these things very sadly do happen everywhere at,
Yeah,
not just unis, but workplaces and anywhere where there's a power dynamic,
yeah.
there's the potential for exploitation in some way. And it just happened in this case. We've got a group of friends from uni, but yeah, it definitely was not where I thought the book would go when I was sitting in my room in my house with a candle, thinking, I'm going to write a book about uni friends in a big house in Yorkshire during a blackout.
I love it. I loved all of it. And I love that you were thinking things through, like even them collecting snow for like extra water, because
Yes.
it is that thing, like after a certain amount of time,
Hmm.
if you know the water's going to be cut, you fill a few bottles and hope for the best, but that's going to, you drink that, that's gone. So it was like the snow and I just loved,
Yeah.
I love that you'd sat there and thought all these things through, like
In
how
my
would we
head, I
survive?
saw the book as two halves. I don't know whether we put these sub chapters, these subheadings in actually, but in my head, the
You
first we
did
did
some of them.
the
You've got
first
the light,
section of the book.
yeah, the
Yeah,
blackout.
it was whiteout.
Yes, white out
Where
and
it's
then
all fun, it's all
yeah.
snowy, it's like Christmas in the snow,
Mm,
snowball fights, sledging,
yeah.
roaring fires, glam dinner. And that's all fine until they then don't have power. And then it's blackout because now
Mm,
it's cold and it's dark and there's no running water. And actually you're now getting down to sort of, you can't wash yourself, you can't flush a loo, you can't cook a meal. Like it's
it's
not
not
so
glamorous.
glamorous anymore, is it? And actually good humor and goodwill runs down quite quickly, and that sort of really enabled me to press down on the stress factors and just get to the nitty gritty of everything that had gone wrong.
Yeah,
Uh,
I liked having the headings actually because it did just feel like the twists are coming, the
yes,
shadows are coming in, and
definitely.
I really liked that actually. It was the perfectly done.
Yeah.
Um, so one of my final questions I think I have is about Libby because she's our main character, the main
Yes.
protagonist. And what I found interesting was like, so she's like this high-powered, doing this amazing job. She's like living the life she dreamed in so many ways, on the surface at very least. And she regresses, I feel like it's, you're back with friends from youth and you have this like regression. But I feel like were you trying to put forward like that regression isn't always a bad thing? That's kind of my question because you've got them having fun and it's not like sometimes it's good to be youthful and enjoy yourself. I mean, she has other aggressions in her confidence because of the whole like Archie thing. You're waiting to find out what happened there. Oh God, I loved him as character as well. So well written, by the way. Their whole dynamic, I was just like,
Thank
oh,
you.
it was juicy and delicious. I loved
Yeah.
it. But with her, like with her little regression, how were you seeing that? Like, was it to bring the fun out of Christmas? Was it because you wanted to show like how people do change when they're with different people? What was in your mind when you were writing her with that?
With Libby, I sort of wanted to get past the gloss, the veneer of all her success, because of course, on paper, she's completely winning at life.
Hmm.
And that's amazing. I mean, I don't want to pull her down from that. But actually, what we care about is her personal growth, like her personal well-being. And the truth is, she's sort of stunted because she had her heart broken
Yeah.
and she's tried to move past it, but she hasn't really. So
Yeah.
she's got the successful, high-powered boyfriend and but I wanted, and I think as well because she's slightly on the outside looking in. She was very much the SWAT. She worked incredibly hard to get there. She had none of the privilege of the others, so there was always slightly that social imbalance as well that she felt probably more sensitive about than they did
Yeah.
because. As far as they're concerned, they're all there together. But I
Yeah.
think that's easy to think that when you're sort of the main characters of a tribe, whereas the person coming into it, I think, is always going to feel slightly more tentative about things.
Yeah.
And the build up of her relationship with Archie, I loved writing that because again, Archie, he comes across as this stereotype. He's the sort of debauched, wastrel peer, you know, all of those cliches. And again, I wanted that boy to have heart and to be
Yeah.
so much more than he appeared and than what he showed to his crew at uni. So
Mm.
he's also playing, they're all playing roles. And that's the thing, Libby's playing a role, but so is Coco, so is Xana, so is Archie. Everyone is projecting
Yeah.
something that isn't what they are. Like it's just a hologram.
Yeah.
And I loved the small, quiet moments between her and him. Actually, her bedroom was my bedroom at uni.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so
Oh,
I
no.
got really lucky in my house. I was on the top floor of this awful house, this terraced house, which when I went back and showed it to my son when we were looking around unis, he went, Marge, you did not live in that house. I said, darling, I did. And the kitchen was in the basement, and we had no heating, and we would fight to do the washing up so we could put our hands in hot water to warm up. Like it was
Oh my
terrible, and it
gosh.
was riddled with mold. But my bedroom was amazing because it was at the top of the house, and I had this big sort of sitting room area, and then this little bedroom off to the side. Like,
Wow.
oh my God. And we did rock, paper, scissors, and I won it. And so her room was my room. And and I loved these quiet moments of them just being together and him dropping the act
Yeah.
and them meeting each other as literally as equals,
Mm.
as just real people. And then they're sort of spun apart by what seems to be a reversion to type by him.
Yeah.
And it's such a betrayal for her. And it's so hard. And she, of course, has no explanation. And her response is to
Yeah.
run, to go back to being the good girl SWAT who's just going to high achieve and escape from her past and help her family. And that's where her safety is.
Mm.
And so I wanted it to be really challenging for her to be back with these people where she's quite triggered by those group dynamics because she knows them so well and they all sort of know most of their secrets, but not all.
No,
Even though
everyone
there
has
isn't,
hidden things.
they do. And, she doesn't know about Archie and Xana and,
Yeah.
there are
Loved that
just,
so much. Like the questions as a reader, and you don't know what's going to happen. The amount of
yeah,
question marks you were laying down so beautifully.
yeah,
You're like, just read another chapter. Hold on.
yeah.
My husband's like, "Can you stop reading?" No, I'll be back in like a
I know.
day. Just leave me alone.
Yeah.
It was
And this
really
is the
lovely.
great thing of doing sort of past present storylines as well, because it makes it really pacey to read because you're constantly like it just makes it pacey. It makes it really slow to write because
Yeah.
you're with a character and then you have to leave them and go to another timeline, another dynamic, live in that world, leave it, go back, and so it's really slow. But when you read it, it's just really pacey and fast when it works.
It
And
did work so well.
yeah.
It really did. Because I'm not the fastest reader either. I have to say, I'm really not. I'm getting quicker since being a writer, and you have to edit things. You have to learn to read fast.
Yes.
I'm like, so, but either way, because it has that pace, and you're like, oh, just another chapter because I want to know what happens in that timeline. So I'm going to go back to this one. And then you have to know what happens in that timeline now because now
Exactly.
you have to keep going. It's like
Yes.
addictive.
And also, of course, when you do read at pace like that, you just get into like a flow state with it because I don't tend to go terribly heavy-handed with clues. I tend to be quite light with them. So if you read incredibly slowly, I just think a lot would be missed. Like my daughter, bless her, she's 19. She's reading her first ever book of mine. She's reading The Last Summer, which is the first book in my St. Kilda series. I kid you not, she's on about chapter 4. She's been reading it for a month. I said, darling, please put us all out of our misery and just stop. I mean, why bother at this point? I said, you're not getting anything from it. These are just words on a page because if you were in a flow state, you would literally be living in that world. Like you would be
Yeah,
more present on the page than you are actually here.
yeah, I agree.
So when you really get into a book, you are living it more than you are the actual 3D world. And it's such a lovely thing. And that's when you as a writer, you feel like you're winning because then the book just comes alive for the reader because
Definitely.
they are literally living it.
Yeah, I definitely felt like that with this book. I literally loved it. So we're coming to a bit of an end. So I would like to know about your next project, the next book that's out. So would you like to tell the readers about what's next, what they can be looking
Yes.
forward to?
So the next book to actually come out from now is Three Summers, which is coming out in February, and it's set in Puglia in southern Italy in the late 1950s, early 1960s. And it's a love triangle told through the perspective of each of the characters in the love triangle. So two men and a woman. And it was based on a trip I made to this tiny little port in Puglia, really tiny. Like you could drive through it in under a minute. It's so small. And it's sort of like a little knot shape. It's like a U-bend road. Like you sort of come around a headland and you chicane in and then you go out again. And you've got this beautiful beach and this tiny old-fashioned little fishing port. There's no big boats in there. There's no speedboats. It's just old fishing boats.
Okay.
And it's really small, golden sand. And then there's about four or five beautiful, big, grand villas in bright colours on the front. And they've got these high walls, these trellised gates, big mature gardens, like they're really lush and stunning. And then behind, and it goes up into this hill, and there's olive groves at the back. And behind, between the olive groves and the grand villas, are just these tiny white fishermen's houses, like these little lanes of fishermen's houses. And so you've got these sort of three steps of community life.
Yeah.
And the the villas are uninhabited for about 10 months of the year. They're owned by the grand families because Italy was sort of so feudal. Like actually Tricasse Porto, which is this port, Tricasse, the whole area itself was owned by this one particular family from the 15th century until the 1980s. So, you have these grand Italian families. So
Yeah.
I rather like the idea of these big villas that are empty 10 months of the year, then being repopulated in the summer months when they come down. And what that would do to a very tight, small community suddenly with this injection of glamour
Yeah.
and grandeur. And so I was thinking, I've got this family called uh, the Franchettis. Had to think for a moment there. The Franchettis, Cosmo. He's been going there. He and his sister have been going there since they were babies, and they've played with the local kids. So to them, it's their summers. They go to Tricasse, and there's no sense of difference. Like they're just their mates. And then, of course, they get to that coming of age period where hormones kicking and, life is beginning in earnest. And suddenly feelings change. And we come in on the first summer on the heels of the previous summer where something clearly happened
Right.
between Cosimo and Raffaella. And Raffaella is the local girl, and she's now going out with this local boy, Fon, whose family are very impoverished. And he's got a very uh, intense, slightly brooding older brother character, Dante. And so it's a really great community of characters. And we've got the nonnas, the old grandmothers, what they say goes. I mean, it's a wonderful community. And so the first summer in, I think it's 1958, is the return of the Franchettis and sort of everything picking up with now this love dynamic, this love triangle, and what this does to the community. And there's a tragic accident that basically resets everything. And the three summers are not consecutive, but we have a reset in the middle summer, and then we pick up with them a few years later in another town just further up the coast, where everyone's lives have been completely upended. There's been a reversal of fortune, and all the characters are thrown together again.
That sounds
Um,
amazing. I
it
can't wait
was
to get a copy. But
it
I
was
have a hardback, so I have to wait till I'm in England so I
yes.
can get a copy because getting books out here in France, the English copies, is ridiculous. Just in postage, it's ridiculous. So I have to
Oh
wait.
my God,
I'm home
yes.
well, not home because I live here now, but when I'm back in England, I spend half my time in the bookshop shop. So that's what I want to do. And I leave space in my bags for like all the books I know I'm going to buy.
Yes, yes, exactly.
So that is on
Exactly.
my list because I said to you earlier, but I'll say to everyone listening, my mum
Yes.
already read it and says it's fabulous and you have to read it. 5 stars all the way. So that's highly recommended. Are there any links you want anyone like, do you have like a newsletter? Is anything that you want anyone to know about with links to websites or anything?
Oh, do you know? Yes. Well, my I do a newsletter now, actually, with Transworld, with Penguin. I think if you do Karen Swan newsletter, Transworld or Penguin, it'll come up. I should know that, shouldn't I?
You can
But
search for it.
it's sort of done on their central. So I write it and then I send it to them, and then they do all the beautiful graphics because I cannot be trusted.
I sent mine to my assistant. I send stuff and she makes it pretty for me.
Have you
I'm
got
like,
an assistant? God, I'm so jealous.
she's amazing. I can give you her details after if you want.
Wow.
She's really, really good. But that's a whole different conversation.
Yes, yes.
But that it's been an amazing interview. Thank you so much for coming and chatting with me today. I've loved
Oh, I've
every.
loved it. Thank you. It's been a real pleasure.
Oh, you're welcome. And hopefully we'll speak to you soon.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys.
Thank you for joining me at Gaia's Library. I really hope you enjoyed today's podcast. I know I did. If you haven't joined our mystery book boxes yet, then please go to gaiaslibrary.co.uk and join us because they are amazing, full of goodies, full of amazing books, and all supporting women's voices and women's voices in women's fiction and romance.